Recently, our staff and leadership got together asking, how do we live into our vision as New Hope Hillside Church?
Well, we're 2-book meets missional.
2-book. Missional?
2-book. You know, Scripture is a book that reveals God. Seeing God there gives us eyes to see God everywhere. In nature, in our vocations, in science, in pop culture, we listen for God. We proclaim God.
And missional?
Missional's not drawing everything into church because that's where God is. It's church inviting us to go out everywhere because God is already there.
It sounds similar.
Yes. Both say God is everywhere. Both listen for it. Both watch. Both work to blur the lines between church and the world. Both think God is active in every square inch of the universe and is inviting us to enjoy him and engage him there. Imagine leaning into this every day, at work, play, with friends, at school, as neighbors.
Believing God is speaking. I guess we'd be listening people, watching people, assuming God, holding our agendas loosely, watching for his timing. We'd be present people, prayerful people, observant. And expectant people, accepting people. Because there's no one in whom God is not working, and a people comfortable with mystery.
And believing God is using us. We'd be humble, compassionate, gracious, hospitable, patient, intentional, Christ-representing, stewards, servants, engaged, studying, learning, non-judgmental, and childlike, joy-filled, you know?
So if we're going to be those kind of people, how can New Hope Hillside support that, facilitate that?
That's a huge question, and I'd say a huge opportunity, because our lives in God are so much bigger than just the church institution. But the church matters, so we brainstormed a bit about organizations that weren't endpoints in themselves, but were vehicles for something greater.
Oh, like Facebook or Twitter? If we use it, it's not an end in itself. It's a vehicle for community and connection.
Like a community soccer organization that creates structure, finds available fields, creates a network, a system, so we can play soccer without all that hassle, you know.
Yeah, or like a gym or a library or a school. Places make you fitter, provide knowledge, make you more smarter, so you can live outside of those organizations.
Like a concierge, like 311, like a chamber of commerce.
That was a lot of examples, organizations and structures that provide a catalyst, that offer a platform, that offer connection and community. They offer supportive structure, offer accountability, they're relevant and can be experienced, and they're free.
Yeah, what if we could be that as a church? What would we care about?
We'd hold up a certain way of being, engaging with God and one another in all spheres of our lives.
We'd be concerned that people's needs were met, spiritual, but also personal, physical, mental, relational.
We'd encourage prayer. We'd teach the way of Jesus. We'd make room for community connection among ourselves, in our neighborhood, in the world.
We'd mind scripture and culture and creation. We'd practice listening to God's voice and teach about it.
We'd have smaller groups for deepening engagement and accountability.
We'd encourage spiritual practice, and we'd break bread together.
And we'd celebrate together and worship God because we become like what we worship.
And we'd remind ourselves that God is there. Wherever there is, speaking, acting, moving, calling us to jump on board, his invitation to everyone.
That's huge. And so then we started asking questions. What are we doing now that fits this big vision? Website, videos, publishing.
Yes.
Community dinners, potlucks, Sunday morning bagels.
Yes.
2-book preaching.
Yes.
Children's ministry.
Yes.
Serving with that missional idea that God is already working.
Yes.
With small groups, women's groups, man scouts, responding to needs.
Yes.
And just being real, accepting and loving people where they're at, striving hard not to make barriers by language, by churchy culture, inflexibility, and woodenness.
Fleshing this out, this is a conversation we're just beginning, and it's our conversation as New Hope Hillside. How do we equip our church to live attentively, expecting, curious?
How can we study Scripture and creation in ways that fit this vision, in ways that lead us beyond knowledge of God to experience God? Can we look at what's working right now with new eyes? At the people God has given us, leaders, staff, congregation. Can we do what we've been doing even better? What have we yet to imagine? How can we blow open the doors of communication both in-house and in our city and in our world?
In a 2-book worldview, our world is filled with parables. In a missional worldview, we are the parable. God speaks us into a world where he is already speaking. We're sent into a world where he's already calling people to himself. We bear witness to things he's already saying in their lives.
Vision speak can sound like a mouthful. It can get abstract. But here we are. We are this people in this time right now in the presence of Christ. Not an idea about God, but our God present, in whom and through whom all things were made.
And we, invited to know him and be his church.
Even New Hope Hillside.